Antarctica is not just a block of ice. It is the forbidden continent, a 2 million square kilometer void hiding secrets that could rewrite human history. With ice sheets nearly 5 kilometers thick, burying massive mountain ranges and lakes isolated for 15 million years, this is the least understood place in our solar system. From ancient maps depicting an ice-free coastline to whispers of secret military bases and unexplained sightings, Antarctica is the final frontier where truth meets myth. Why is this continent locked down? We are stepping through the forbidden gates right now. Antarctica is far more than a desolate expanse of ice. It is a unique geological entity, positioned almost entirely within the Antarctic Circle and anchoring the geographic South Pole. Surpassing the European continent in scale and doubling the size of Australia, its vast surface area is comparable to that of the dwarf planet Pluto, emphasizing its status as an isolated planetary scale feature. This wilderness is defined by its total segregation from the rest of the world, guarded by the volatile and high-energy waters of the Southern Ocean, where the Antarctic circumpolar current acts as a massive thermal barrier. The defining characteristic of Antarctica is its massive cryosphere. Approximately 99% of the landmass is entombed beneath a continental ice sheet with an average thickness of 1.9 to 2 kilometers. However, this frozen mantle is not uniform. In the rugged terrains of East Antarctica, specifically within Wilkes Land, satellite measurements and ground-penetrating radar have identified ice pockets plunging to a depth of 4,892 meters. This colossal volume of ice accounts for roughly 90% of the world's glacial mass, serving as the planet's primary freshwater reservoir and holding between 70% and 75% of Earth's total freshwater supply. If this entire ice sheet were to melt, global sea levels would rise by an estimated 58 meters, fundamentally redrawing the world's coastlines. The sheer weight of this accumulation is so immense that it has triggered isostatic depression, forcing significant portions of the continental bedrock below sea level, effectively turning parts of the continent into a sunken archipelago hidden by ice. Climatologically, Antarctica stands as the world's largest desert, a profound paradox of the frozen world. Aridity here reaches the extreme. While coastal regions receive approximately 200 millimeters of annual precipitation, the interior is far drier. In the McMurdo Dry Valleys, precipitation levels drop to a mere 10 millimeters, surpassing the desiccation of the harshest tropical deserts. In these valleys, some areas have not seen liquid water or snow for nearly 2 million years, making them the closest terrestrial analog to the Martian surface. This dryness is matched only by the most brutal temperatures in nature. While the record at the Vostok station remains at 89.2 degrees Celsius, modern thermal imaging from the Domvuji Highlands suggests temperatures can plummet to a staggering range of 93.2 degrees Celsius to 98 degrees Celsius during the long polar night. The hostility of the environment is further amplified by katabatic winds. Driven by gravity and the immense density of the cold air over the polar plateau, these winds cascade toward the coast at sustained speeds. Unlike typical storm winds, these air masses gain momentum as they drop in elevation, with gusts peaking at 300 km, equivalent to Category 5 hurricane force. This relentless airflow creates whiteout conditions where visibility drops to zero, and the blowing snow can erode even the hardest scientific equipment over time. Beneath the ice lies a complex subterranean topography, bisected by the 500 kilometers long Trans-Antarctic Mountains, which divide the continent into east and west. While Vinson Massif in the Ellsworth Mountains rises 4,892 meters above sea level, the Gamburtsev Mountains exist as a geological ghost, a range as massive as the Alps, yet entirely concealed beneath more than a kilometer of ice. The discovery of these subglacial peaks remains one of the greatest geographical revelations of the 21st century. West Antarctica further reveals its geological dynamism through a network of 138 volcanoes, headlined by Mount Erebus. As the southernmost active volcano on Earth, Erebus features a persistent lava lake, one of only a few in the world. It emits plumes of steam and volcanic gases into the freezing polar air, creating unique ice fumaroles, tall, hollow towers of ice formed around volcanic vents. These structures maintain internal temperatures that could potentially support microbial life, standing in stark contrast to the surrounding deep freeze. Collectively, these physical attributes establish Antarctica as the highest, driest, windiest, and most formidable physical frontier on our planet, a land of extremes that continues to challenge the limits of human technology and exploration. The contemporary image of Antarctica as a sterile white void is a relatively recent phenomenon in the context of geological time. For hundreds of millions of years, this landmass was not an isolated icebox, but the verdant heart of the supercontinent Gondwana. To understand the forbidden frontier, one must first decode the structural history written in its bedrock, a history that confirms Antarctica was once a thriving sanctuary of biodiversity, possessing a climate more akin to modern-day New Zealand or even the tropical regions of South America. Approximately 200 million years ago, during the Jurassic period, Antarctica occupied a central position within Gondwana, physically connected to what are now South America, Africa, India, and Australia. This was a world without polar ice caps, where the concept of frozen was non-existent. Paleobotanical evidence, retrieved through arduous subglacial drilling and fossil hunting in the Transantarctic mountains, reveals that the continent was blanketed in vast forests of Glossopteris, a genus of seed ferns that dominated the southern hemisphere. As we moved into the Cretaceous period, roughly 145 to 66 million years ago, even as Gondwana began its slow fragmentation, Antarctica remained a lush corridor for life. The Cretaceous thermal maximum created a greenhouse Earth where CO2 levels were significantly higher than today, reaching levels that kept the poles warm enough to support deciduous forests. Scientific expeditions have unearthed the remains of coniferous forests and diverse reptilian life, proving that the Antarctic Peninsula was once a highway for dinosaur migrations. The discovery of Antarctopelta oliveroi, a heavily armored ankylosaur, and the predatory Cryolophosaurus, nicknamed the Elvisaurus due to its unique cranial crest, shatters the myth of a permanently frozen land. These creatures did not just survive. They thrived in an ecosystem of cycads, ferns, and ginkgo trees under a sun that stayed above the horizon for months at a time during the polar summers. The presence of these large-bodied animals implies a highly productive environment with massive amounts of vegetation, a stark contrast to the current desert of ice. The transformation from a green paradise to a forbidden frontier began approximately 34 million years ago at the Eocene-Oligocene boundary. This was not a sudden catastrophe, but a result of two catastrophic planetary shifts: the movement of tectonic plates and a dramatic decline in atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. As the Australian and South American landmasses drifted northward, they opened the Drake Passage and the Tasmanian Gateway. This tectonic separation was the death knell for a green Antarctica. It allowed for the birth of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC, the most powerful ocean current on Earth, moving over 130 million cubic meters of water per second. By encircling the continent with a relentless wall of cold water, the ACC effectively decapitated the heat transfer from the tropics. Deprived of warm oceanic influence, the continent began to trap its own cold, creating a self-reinforcing feedback loop of freezing. Simultaneously, the Earth's climate underwent a global cooling phase, as ES2 levels dropped below a critical threshold, roughly 600 parts per million. Within a few million years, a blink of an eye in geological terms, the lush forests withered. The temperate rainforests were replaced by tundra, then by permafrost, and finally by the massive ice sheets we see today. The trees did not disappear, they were entombed. Today, several kilometers beneath the ice, the remains of those ancient forests still exist in a state of cryogenic suspension, waiting to be decoded. The academic significance of Antarctic fossils cannot be overstated. When Captain Robert Falcon Scott's ill-fated Terra Nova expedition was found in 1912, the search party discovered 35 pounds of Glossopteris fossils beside their frozen bodies. Even in the face of death, Scott recognized that these stones were the key to proving the theory of continental drift and the existence of Gondwana. These fossils proved that Antarctica was once tropical, serving as a biological bridge between continents. Recent expeditions have expanded this record significantly. In the James Ross Island group, researchers discovered the remains of marine reptiles and birds that indicate the surrounding waters were once as warm as the Mediterranean. Beyond flora, the continent's fossil record includes evidence of marsupials, indicating that the ancestors of Australia's modern wildlife once trekked across the Antarctic plains. The discovery of ancient Eocene penguins, some standing nearly 2 meters tall, Paleodypts klekowski, provides a glimpse into a transitional world where the oceans were cooling, but the land still held onto the last vestiges of warmth. Understanding this green past is vital for modern science because it provides a baseline for climate sensitivity. By studying the transition from the Eocene to the Oligocene, researchers can model how our current planet might react to rapidly shifting CO2 levels. Antarctica acts as a time capsule. The layers of sediment beneath the ice shelves contain pollen grains and spores that are millions of years old, perfectly preserved by the cold. These biological markers allow scientists to reconstruct ancient rainfalls and seasonal temperatures with startling accuracy. For example, the discovery of beech tree pollen, Notophagus, suggests that even as late as 12 million years ago, small pockets of vegetation might have survived in sheltered valleys, long after the rest of the continent had succumbed to the ice. This suggests a much more gradual and complex death of the green continent than previously assumed. Today, we look at the McMurdo Dry Valleys and see a landscape that mimics Mars. But beneath the feet of every researcher at McMurdo lies a ghost continent. The strategic and scientific obsession with Antarctica stems from this very paradox. It is the only place on Earth where a complete prehistoric ecosystem is preserved in a deep freeze state, untouched by human development or the erodal forces of wind and rain. The bedrock of Antarctica holds the answers to the forbidden frontier. It tells us that the ice is an intruder, a 34-million-year-old veil covering a land that was, for the vast majority of its history, a vibrant jungle. As we move toward the more controversial theories of human history and ancient maps, the geological truth remains the firmest foundation. Antarctica was once green and inhabited by the giants of the Mesozoic, while its current forbidden status is simply a result of planetary-scale thermal isolation. The secrets are not just on the ice, they are under it, woven into the very fabric of the Gondwanan rock. The fossils of tree stumps, still rooted in the ground beneath the ice, remind us that the forbidden frontier is merely a stage in a much longer, much greener history. The truth decoded in this section is that we are not just exploring a new land. We are exhuming an ancient one that was once the cradle of Southern Hemisphere life. The most profound mystery of Antarctica does not lie in what we see today, but in how the continent was depicted centuries before its official discovery in 1820. The existence of ancient maps showing an ice-free Antarctic coastline presents a staggering challenge to our understanding of human history and maritime exploration. If the ice sheet has been in place for at least 34 million years, then maps showing an ice-free coastline suggest a lost chapter of advanced seafloor mapping. Alternatively, the existence of these maps could imply a radical misunderstanding of the continent's recent geological history. The focal point of this controversy is the Piri-Reis map, compiled in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer of the same name. Compiled from at least 20 source maps, the document includes records dating back to the era of Alexander the Great. The map depicts the western coast of Africa and South America, alongside a controversial southern landmass identified by many as Queen Maud Land. The academic anomaly lies in the precision of the coastline. In 1960, Professor Charles Hapgood requested the United States Air Force 8th Reconnaissance Technical Squadron to compare the Piri-Reis map with the seismic profile of the Antarctic subglacial landmass. The response from Lieutenant Colonel Harold Z. Ohlmeyer was historic. The map's depiction of the coastline matched the subglacial topography with startling accuracy. These features had been buried under ice for millennia, and were only seen by modern humanity through the advent of 20th century sonar and seismic sounding. This raises a haunting question. Who mapped the Queen Maud Land coast before it was covered by a kilometer of ice? The Piri Reis map is not an isolated incident. The Oronce-Finet map of 1531 depicts Antarctica as a massive continent with distinct mountain ranges and river systems. It shows a remarkable resemblance to the actual subglacial topography revealed by the BedMap 2 project centuries later. Unlike the vague Terra Australis Incognita of other Renaissance maps, Finet's work displays a sophisticated understanding of the continent's scale and its relationship to the South Pole. Furthermore, the 1737 map by Philippe Buache, a French royal geographer, depicts Antarctica as two distinct islands separated by a vast subglacial channel. For centuries, this was dismissed as a fabrication. However, modern scientific surveys, including those conducted during the International Geophysical Year, 1957-58, confirmed that Antarctica is indeed a divided landmass. Beneath the ice, the continent is split into east and west by a deep subglacial trench that connects the Ross and Weddell Seas. The fact that Buache depicted this transantarctic passage nearly 2 centuries before modern technology could verify it remains one of the most significant cartographic anomalies in history. To bridge the gap between these ancient maps and geological reality, Charles Hapgood proposed the theory of Earth crustal displacement. While mainstream plate tectonics rejects the speed of this movement, Hapgood's work argued that such a shift could explain how ancient civilizations mapped an ice-free coastline. Notably, his work received an appreciative foreword from Albert Einstein. Einstein himself noted that the asymmetrical accumulation of ice at the poles could create a centrifugal force sufficient to cause the Earth's crust to slip. If this occurred, the forbidden frontier might have been habitable much more recently than the 34 million year timeline suggests. This theory does not invent facts. Instead, it attempts to reconcile the impossible accuracy of the maps with the physical laws of the planet. Of course, the academic community offers a more conservative explanation. Skeptics argue that the Antarctic coastlines on these maps are merely distorted versions of South America's coastline. They suggest these features were stretched by cartographers to fill the empty space at the bottom of the world. They point out that 16th century sailors often used imaginary geography to satisfy the Renaissance obsession with balance. This stemmed from the belief that a massive southern continent must exist to balance the land masses of the north. However, this skeptical view struggles to explain the seismic correlation. While a cartographer could imagine a continent, it is statistically improbable that they would accidentally draw specific mountain peaks and bay inlets. These features match a subglacial landmass that would not be verified by radar for another 450 years. The precision of the Princess Martha Coast in the Peary Reese map, in particular, continues to defy easy dismissal. If we accept that these maps are based on older source documents, we are forced to acknowledge the existence of a high-functioning, seafaring culture. This culture would have been capable of global navigation and spherical trigonometry thousands of years ago. This lost maritime tradition would have possessed knowledge of longitude. Such a feat was not officially mastered by modern Europeans until the 18th century, with the invention of Harrison's chronometer. Antarctica, in this context, becomes the ultimate time capsule. It suggests that our current civilization is not the first to explore the extreme reaches of the globe. The maps are silent witnesses to a time when the forbidden frontier was accessible. They provide a blueprint of a world that existed before the Great Freeze. They remind us that the truth of Antarctica may not be hidden just in the ice, but in the archives of lost history. These archives contain ancient ink lines that match the contours of buried rock with chilling accuracy. By analyzing these documents, we aren't just looking at old paper. We are looking at a pre-ice mirror of our world. This is a record of a planet that has undergone shifts so profound they have been erased from our collective memory. Only these cartographic ghosts remain behind. For decades, the scientific community perceived the Antarctic ice sheet as a solid, static block of ice frozen to the continental bedrock. However, modern satellite altimetry and ice-penetrating radar have shattered this illusion. This subglacial environment is not a void. It is a complex network of over 400 liquid water lakes and massive river systems. It also contains jagged mountain ranges that have remained untouched by the Earth's atmosphere for millions of years. The crown jewel of this hidden world is Lake Vostok, the largest of Antarctica's subglacial lakes. Located near the southern pole of inaccessibility, Vostok is roughly the size of Lake Ontario, but buried under nearly 4,000 meters of ice. This body of water has been isolated from the outside world for at least 15 million years. It is a high-pressure, pitch-black environment that is oxygen-rich but nutrient-poor. The truth decoded here lies in how liquid water can exist at temperatures far below freezing. The water in Lake Vostok remains liquid due to the immense hydrostatic pressure exerted by the weight of the miles-thick ice sheet above, which lowers the freezing point of water. It is also sustained by geothermal flux, the natural heat rising from the Earth's interior. When Russian scientists finally breached the lake in 2012, they discovered accretion ice, crass water from the lake that had refrozen to the bottom of the ice sheet. Analysis of this ice revealed DNA fragments of thousands of organisms, including bacteria, fungi, and even complex multicellular organisms. These extremophiles survive in a world where no sunlight has ever penetrated, potentially rewriting our understanding of the limits of biology. Lake Vostok serves as the ultimate terrestrial analog for Jupiter's moon Europa, or Saturn's moon Enceladus. This suggests that life can flourish in the dark, high-pressure oceans of the outer solar system. Contrary to the belief that these lakes are isolated pockets, research has proven that Antarctica possesses a vast, pressurized plumbing system. Using satellite data to track the rise and fall of the ice surface, scientists discovered that subglacial lakes frequently flush their contents. They send massive surges of water through under-ice tunnels into the Southern Ocean. This subglacial drainage system acts as a lubricant for the ice sheets above. When water flows between the ice and the rock, it reduces friction, allowing massive glaciers to slide toward the sea at accelerated speeds. The Whillans ice stream is a primary example, where a subglacial lake at its base periodically lubricates the ice. This process causes the entire stream to lurch forward. This discovery is critical for climate modeling. The stability of the entire West Antarctic ice sheet depends on the behavior of this hidden water. This water remains one of the most volatile variables in global sea level rise projections. Perhaps the most startling feature of the subglacial landscape is the Gamburtsev mountain range. Discovered by a Soviet expedition in 1958, these mountains are roughly the size of the European Alps. They feature peaks rising to 3,000 meters and stretch over 1,200 kilometers in length. Yet, they are invisible to the naked eye, completely submerged under the East Antarctic ice sheet. The geological paradox of the Gamburtseves is their age. Normally, mountains are eroded over millions of years into smooth, rounded hills. However, the Gamburtseves remain jagged and young in appearance. Geologists hypothesize that the ice sheet itself acted as a protective shroud, freeze-drying the mountains. This prevented the erosive forces of wind and rain from wearing them down over the eons. This range is believed to be the birthplace of the original ice sheet. As the climate cooled 34 million years ago, snow first accumulated on these high peaks. Eventually, the growing glaciers flowed down from the mountains to cover the entire continent. At the edge of the continent, the world beneath the ice takes on a more ominous tone. The Thwaites Glacier, often called the Doomsday Glacier, is currently being eroded from below by warming ocean currents. Scientific underwater drones have discovered massive cavities beneath the glacier. Some of these cavities are as large as 2/3 the size of Manhattan and 300 meters tall. These cavities allow warm, salty seawater to penetrate deep into the glacier's underbelly, melting it from the inside out. The grounding line, the point where the glacier leaves the rock and starts to float, is retreating at an alarming rate. Because Thwaites acts as a cork, holding back the rest of the West Antarctic ice sheet, its collapse would be catastrophic. The truth is that the forbidden frontier is currently losing its foundation. The subglacial world is melting, and the invisible rivers are flowing faster than at any point in recorded history. In recent years, the SALSA, Subglacial Antarctic Lake Scientific Access project successfully sampled Lake Mercer and Lake Whillans. Unlike the theoretical models of a dead world, these lakes were teeming with microbial life. Thousands of species of bacteria were found to be eating the minerals from the crushed rock beneath the ice. This biological process is known as chemosynthesis. These microbes do not need the sun to survive. They live off the chemical energy released by the interaction between water and ancient bedrock. This discovery proves that Antarctica is not just a graveyard of ancient Gondwanan life, but a living, breathing ecosystem today. These subglacial islands of life provide a window into the Earth's deep past. They also provide a preview of what life might look like on other ice-covered worlds in our solar system. Beyond the biological and geological, the subglacial world presents unexplained physical phenomena. Large-scale magnetic anomalies have been detected in the Wilkesland region and near Lake Vostok. While some theorists jump to alien technology or secret bases, the scientific truth is likely more grounded. It is likely related to the composition of the Earth's crust or ancient volcanic activity buried deep beneath the ice. The Wilkesland gravity anomaly is a massive 480-kilometer-wide feature. It is theorized to be a giant impact crater from a meteorite that struck Earth 250 million years ago. This event was so powerful, it may have contributed to the Permian-Triassic extinction. It may have also triggered the initial breakup of the Gondwana supercontinent. The world beneath the Antarctic ice is the final unmapped territory on Earth. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of the terrain beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. Every time a radar pulse penetrates the ice, it reveals a world of jagged peaks, liquid rivers, and ancient lakes that defy the extreme cold. The forbidden frontier is a multi-layered reality. While the surface is a horizontal desert of wind and snow, the subglacial world is a vertical labyrinth of pressure, heat, and resilient life. Decoding the truth of Antarctica requires us to look past the white veil and acknowledge that the continent is a hollow giant. Understanding this hidden realm is no longer just a matter of curiosity. It is a necessity for predicting the future of our rising oceans. It is also vital for understanding the potential for life in the farthest reaches of our solar system. The isolation of Antarctica has transformed it into a breeding ground for modern mythology. But beneath the sensationalist headlines lie documented anomalies that continue to baffle the global scientific and intelligence communities. When we peel back the layers of conspiracy, we find a series of declassified reports and physical phenomena. These findings suggest the forbidden frontier may hold secrets far more complex than simple ice and rock. The transition from established science to unexplained mystery begins with the physical echoes of the past. It is further complicated by the strange behavior of the Earth's magnetic field at the bottom of the world. The most enduring legend of Antarctica centers on Operation High Jump, 1946-1947, officially titled the United States Navy Antarctic Developments Project. Led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, this was the largest Antarctic expedition ever assembled. It involved 700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft. While the official objective was to establish a research base called Little America IV, the sheer scale of the military force has fueled decades of suspicion. The truth decoded from declassified naval logs reveals that the expedition was abruptly terminated after only 8 weeks. Upon his return, Admiral Byrd gave a cryptic interview to the Chilean newspaper El Mercurio. He warned that the United States must adopt measures of defense against hostile aircraft that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. While conspiracy theorists suggest Byrd encountered extraterrestrial craft, the academic reality points toward the Soviet perspective. Declassified Soviet intelligence reports indicate that the USSR believed High Jump was a cover for the US to establish a permanent military foothold. The sightings reported by pilots during the mission remain in the official logs as unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. The narrative of a secret German base, often referred to as Station 211, stems from the 1938-1939 German Antarctic expedition to Queen Maud Land. Historical records confirm that the expedition mapped over 250,000 square kilometers, dropping steel markers to claim the territory. The legend posits that a massive subglacial complex was constructed to house high-ranking officials and experimental technology. While historians have found no evidence of large-scale construction, the discovery of warm water geothermal vents provides a grain of scientific truth. Modern thermal imaging has confirmed hotspots, where temperatures inside ice caverns can reach 20 degrees Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. These conditions could potentially allow for human habitation without external heating. The forbidden nature of these caves, often restricted for biological preservation, continues to feed theories that the ice hides more than just microbes. One of the most significant physical anomalies in Antarctica is the Wilkes Land gravity anomaly. Discovered in 2006 by NASA's GRACE satellites, this massive gravitational mass concentration is located beneath the ice in a region nearly 500 kilometers wide. Mainstream geologists hypothesize that this is a colossal impact crater, twice the size of the one that killed the dinosaurs. This event is thought to date back to the Permian-Triassic extinction event 50 million years ago. However, the anomaly presents a unique profile. It is a massive concentration of dense material buried deep beneath the crust. Because the ice in this region is nearly 4 kilometers thick, direct investigation is impossible. The silence from governmental agencies regarding the specific composition of this anomaly has led to various forbidden theories, ranging from ancient buried structures to localized distortions in space-time. Scientifically, the anomaly is real. Its origin, however, remains a matter of intense debate, as it sits precisely at the point where the Gondwana supercontinent first began to fracture. In the Taylor Glacier, a crimson-colored liquid periodically seeps from the ice, known as blood falls. While initially thought to be algae, scientific analysis has proven it to be hypersaline water trapped for 2 million years, rich in iron that oxidizes when it touches the air. The mythic significance here is the time capsule effect. The water contains a microbial ecosystem that has evolved in total darkness, without oxygen, for millions of years. This confirms that the interior of the continent acts as a biological vault. If such a primitive and resilient ecosystem can exist in a forbidden state for eons, it lends weight to a profound idea. It suggests that larger, more complex biological residues could be preserved within the deeper, unmapped subglacial trenches. There is also the possibility of artificial residues remaining intact within these extreme environments. The preservation properties of the ice could act as a time capsule for remnants of the distant past. Because these trenches are shielded from the surface and the passage of time, they remain one of the last truly unexplored frontiers on Earth. As discussed in Section 3, the cartographic anomalies of the Piri Reis and Oronche Fine maps suggest that someone mapped the continent before the ice arrived. This has led to the ancient civilization hypothesis, the idea that Antarctica is the site of a lost prehistoric culture, possibly the legendary Atlantis. While archaeologists have yet to find a smoking gun, such as a pyramid or city ruins, the discovery of nunataks, mountain peaks that protrude through the ice with strangely geometric shapes, has sparked intense scrutiny. In the Ellsworth Mountains, satellite imagery has identified several peaks that resemble three-sided pyramids. Geologists classify these as pyramidal peaks formed by glacial erosion, cirques. But the mathematical symmetry of these structures remains a point of fascination. If the maps are correct, then the truth decoded is that these peaks were once the high points of a habitable, green landscape that could have hosted human settlements long before the written records of Mesopotamia or Egypt. At the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory uses a cubic kilometer of ice to detect nearly massless subatomic particles called neutrinos. In recent years, the facility has detected upward-going cosmic rays, particles that seem to be erupting out of the Earth rather than falling from space. These Anita anomalies, named after the Antarctic impulsive transient antenna, defy the standard model of particle physics. While scientists are searching for a quantum explanation, the phenomenon has given rise to theories that Antarctica sits atop a unique geophysical lens, or a rift in the electromagnetic field of the planet. The fact that this research is conducted in total isolation, under strict governmental oversight, adds a layer of forbidden mystery to what is otherwise a cutting-edge physics experiment. The myths of Antarctica are not mere fantasies. They are interpretations of a reality that is too vast and too old for our current historical framework. Whether it is the rapid retreat of Admiral Byrd or the strange gravitational pulls in Wilkes Land, the continent refuses to behave according to the laws of the known world. This defiance of the known world is also seen in the impossible particles rising from the ice, which challenge our standard models of physics. The forbidden frontier remains a place where the veil between science and is thinnest. By decoding these anomalies, we realize that the truth of Antarctica is likely a synthesis of both science and mystery. It is a continent that served as the cradle of ancient geological shifts, and a place where modern physics and lost history intersect. This intersection occurs in the cold, dark silence of the ice, away from the eyes of the world. The truth is not just hidden, it is protected by the most formidable environment on Earth. This environmental barrier ensures that only those with the most advanced technology can ever hope to see what lies behind the frozen gates. Alternatively, it remains reserved for those driven by the most daring curiosity. Antarctica is officially designated as a land of peace and science, governed by the 1959 Antarctic Treaty System, ATS. However, beneath this diplomatic veneer lies a complex web of geopolitical tension, strategic posturing, and covert operations. The Forbidden Frontier is not merely a laboratory for climate change. It is a high-stakes chessboard where world powers exercise a geopolitics of silence. To understand why this continent is the most restricted landmass on Earth, one must look beyond the treaties and into the shadows of military history, resource speculation, and advanced surveillance technology. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959, currently signed by 56 nations, was a masterpiece of Cold War diplomacy. Its primary mandate is clear. The continent shall be used for peaceful purposes only. Military bases, maneuvers, and weapon testing are strictly prohibited under this agreement. It freezes all territorial claims made by nations like Argentina, Australia, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the United Kingdom. This freezing of claims prevents a chaotic scramble for Antarctica among global powers. However, the truth decoded is that the treaty does not ban military personnel or equipment. It only bans their military use, creating a significant strategic loophole. This loophole has allowed nations to deploy military logistics, transport aircraft, and naval vessels. These assets are officially deployed under the guise of supporting scientific research. Today, many of the 70-plus research stations are managed or supported by national ministries of defense. The presence of the U.S. Air Force at McMurdo Station highlights this fundamental reality. Similarly, the Russian military's involvement in Vostok logistics underscores the scale of this involvement. Antarctica remains the only place on Earth where active-duty military forces operate in high concentrations without being in a state of war. One of the most chilling chapters in Antarctic history is the Vela Incident, also known as the South Atlantic Flash. On September 22, 1979, an American Vela Hotel satellite detected a double flash of light in the waters between Antarctica and the Prince Edward Islands. This double flash is considered the unmistakable signature of a nuclear explosion. For decades, the source of this forbidden blast has been a subject of intense intelligence debate. A government-appointed panel originally suggested it might have been a meteoroid hitting the satellite to downplay the event. However, subsequent declassified CIA documents and hydroacoustic data from Antarctic stations suggest otherwise. It is widely theorized that this was a joint secret nuclear test conducted by Israel and South Africa. The fact that such a massive event could occur on the fringes of the protected continent remains a significant mystery. No nation has ever officially claimed responsibility for the explosion, This proves that Antarctica's isolation provides a perfect black site for operations that violate international law. At the geographic South Pole, the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory represents the pinnacle of modern physics. It uses a cubic kilometer of pristine ice to catch elusive subatomic particles known as neutrinos. While its scientific value for understanding the universe is undisputed, the facility requires immense power to operate. Its ability to detect anomalous particles has led some to question the potential for dual-use technology. Strategic analysts point to neutrino communication as a potential application of this technology. This is a theoretical method of sending encoded messages directly through the Earth's core. Such signals would be nearly impossible for any enemy to intercept or jam using conventional means. Furthermore, the presence of massive radar arrays and ionospheric heaters has raised eyebrows among observers. These systems are similar in function to the HAARP facility located in Alaska. While officially used to study the upper atmosphere and space weather, these systems have theoretical secondary capabilities. They could potentially be used for over-the-horizon (OIT) radar systems. This would allow a nation to monitor maritime and aerial movements across the entire southern hemisphere. This monitoring could be conducted from a single, strategically untouchable location deep within the Antarctic interior. The most significant threat to the silence of Antarctica is the year 2048. This is the year when the Protocol on Environmental Protection, the Madrid Protocol, becomes open for review. This protocol currently bans all commercial mining and oil drilling on the continent. The stakes for this review are astronomical. Antarctica is estimated to hold at least 200 billion barrels of oil, with some recent 2026 reports suggesting potential reserves as high as 511 billion barrels in specific sectors like the Weddell Sea. The continent also contains vast reserves of coal, iron ore, and precious metals like gold and platinum. Moreover, as the world faces a growing freshwater crisis, Antarctica holds approximately 70% of the planet's supply. Nations like China and Russia have been rapidly expanding their scientific footprint on the continent. They are building new or expanded stations in mineral-rich areas like the Larsman Hills and near the Amory Ice Shelf. These stations are strategically positioned to act as sovereignty markers the moment the mining ban is challenged. The forbidden status of the continent is currently a ticking clock. Once the economic incentive outweighs the diplomatic cost, the scramble for the last untapped resource cache on Earth will begin. The vastness of the Antarctic interior is nearly impossible to monitor, as it covers an area larger than the United States and Mexico combined. This immense scale has given rise to credible reports of dark stations, facilities that do not appear on official CMNAPE, Council of Managers of National Antarctic Programs, lists. Intelligence agencies have long kept a close watch on the pole of inaccessibility, the point on the continent furthest from any ocean. This is the site where the Soviets established a base in 1958, famously leaving behind a bust of Vladimir Lenin that still faces Moscow. In the modern era, satellite imagery has occasionally detected unusual heat signatures and runway clearings in unclaimed sectors, such as Marie Byrd Land. While some of these sites may be temporary field camps, the lack of transparency surrounding certain deep interior locations raises questions. It suggests that some nations may be conducting dual-use research away from the eyes of international inspectors. This research could include the testing of long-range drones designed for extreme polar environments. Other potential activities include studying cold weather, biological resilience, or testing advanced, secure cryptographic systems. The forbidden nature of these interior zones provides a perfect veil for technological and strategic developments that remain off the official record. An emerging and often overlooked aspect of Antarctic geopolitics is the increasing reliance on private military contractors, PMCs, for logistics and security. Companies with deep ties to national defense departments, such as Raytheon Polar Services or various defense-linked logistics firms, are often hired to manage the civilian operations of research bases. This creates a layer of plausible deniability for participating governments. If a sensitive or controversial operation is compromised, the government can claim it was a private sector error rather than a state violation of the Antarctic Treaty. The militarization of Antarctica is not happening through traditional means like tanks and trenches. Instead, it is occurring through the privatization of its essential infrastructure, from transport to specialized communications. This evolution has created a shadow presence on the continent. The 1959 Antarctic Treaty was never designed to handle the legal and ethical complexities of private military involvement. As a result, the lines between scientific support and strategic security continue to blur in the deep interior. Antarctica's position at the bottom of the world makes it the most critical location for satellite communication. Polar orbiting satellites pass over Antarctica on every single revolution around the Earth. Therefore, a ground station in Antarctica can dump data from spy satellites much more frequently than any other location on the planet. Key examples of these facilities include the McMurdo Ground Station and the Norwegian Trollsat. This unique positioning makes the continent a vital link in global signals intelligence. Whomever controls the most advanced downlink facilities in Antarctica essentially controls the flow of global orbital intelligence. The forbidden frontier is thus a silent war zone of data. Encrypted streams of military and economic intelligence are beamed down to the ice. These data streams are then relayed to command centers in Washington, Beijing, or Moscow. This invisible network operates continuously, hidden within the extreme conditions of the southern continent. Interestingly, environmental protection is often used as a geopolitical weapon in Antarctica. When a nation wants to prevent another from building a station or an airfield in a strategic location, they often declare the area an Antarctic Specially Protected Area, ASPA. Under the guise of protecting a rare species of moss or a penguin colony, a nation can effectively lock down a territory. This maneuver makes the specific region forbidden to all other nations. This green geopolitics allows world powers to claim de facto control over land. They can do this without violating the letter of the Antarctic Treaty. The treaty itself strictly forbids formal territorial annexation. Therefore, using environmental labels becomes a clever way to bypass international restrictions and maintain influence. Ultimately, the geopolitics of Antarctica is defined by the sovereignty of the cold. To maintain a presence in the most hostile environment on Earth requires a level of technological and financial power that only a few nations possess. By keeping the continent forbidden through extreme environmental regulations and high costs of entry, the current Antarctic powers ensure that the global commons remains an exclusive club. The truth decoded in this section is that Antarctica is not a land without owners. Instead, it is a land where ownership is expressed through scientific presence, satellite downlinks, and the silent capability for rapid militarization. The silence of the ice is not an absence of activity, but a deliberate policy of discretion. As the 2048 deadline approaches and global resources dwindle, the forbidden frontier will likely become the center of a new kind of conflict. This conflict will be fought not with traditional armies, but with lawyers, scientists, and the silent machines that hum beneath the polar night. The continent remains a forbidden frontier, precisely because it is the only place left on Earth where the world's superpowers are still playing a game with no rules. They remain hidden behind a curtain of white, waiting for the ice to melt and reveal the true prize. When we look at the map of Antarctica today, we see a patchwork of claims and stations. But the real map is one of strategic depth. Each station is a sensor, each runway is a bridgehead, and each treaty meeting is a tactical negotiation. The forbidden nature of the continent is its greatest asset. It allows for the quiet preparation of a world order that will emerge when the last great wilderness is finally opened for business. The geopolitics of silence is the ultimate expression of power. It is the power to control a continent without firing a single shot. This strategy uses the ice itself as a shield for the secrets of the future. The continent remains a quiet staging ground for what comes next in global history. Antarctica is often characterized as a biological wasteland, yet it is home to some of the most resilient and specialized life forms on Earth. To survive in the forbidden frontier, organisms have had to evolve beyond the standard biological limits of the rest of the planet. From the microscopic to the gargantuan, the inhabitants of this realm are not merely surviving. They are masters of an environment that would be lethal to almost any other species. The truth decoded in this section is the discovery of biological mechanisms that challenge our understanding of evolution. These discoveries also expand our understanding of the potential for life on other frozen worlds in our solar system. One of the most striking phenomena in the Southern Ocean is polar gigantism. In the frigid, oxygen-rich waters surrounding the continent, certain species grow to sizes far exceeding their temperate cousins. Sea spiders, pycnogonids, which are usually the size of a fingernail elsewhere, grow to the size of dinner plates. Their leg spans can exceed 30 centimeters in these extreme conditions. Isopods and amphipods, typically microscopic, also evolve into giants of the deep. The scientific reason for this realm of giants lies in the cold water's ability to hold high concentrations of dissolved oxygen. Because these creatures have slow metabolisms due to the cold, they require less energy to function. This allows the abundant oxygen to fuel extraordinary physical growth. This environment creates a slow-motion world where longevity is the norm. Some Antarctic sponges are estimated to be over 2,000 years old. This makes them some of the oldest living animals on the planet. While most fish would freeze solid in sub-zero waters, the notothenioids, Antarctic ice fish, have evolved a forbidden biological superpower. They produce antifreeze glycoproteins, AFGPs, in their blood and body fluids. These proteins bind to microscopic ice crystals, preventing them from growing and destroying the animal's cells. Even more startling is the crocodile icefish. It is the only vertebrate on Earth that lacks hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen and gives blood its red color. Their blood is transparent, like water. In the extreme cold, oxygen dissolves directly into the blood plasma, allowing the fish to survive without the need for red blood cells. This adaptation reduces the viscosity of their blood, making it easier for their hearts to pump it through their bodies in freezing temperatures. This is a radical evolutionary departure that exists nowhere else, proving that Antarctica is a laboratory for alien biology on Earth. The emperor penguin, Aptenodytes forsteri, is the only warm-blooded animal that remains on the Antarctic continent during the brutal winter. Their survival is a feat of collective intelligence and physiological engineering. To withstand 60 degrees Celsius temperatures and 200 km/h winds, they employ a huddling strategy, a continuous, rotating formation where individuals move from the freezing exterior to the warm interior of the pack. Their feathers are the densest of any bird, providing a dual-layered insulation that is more effective than the highest-grade human mountaineering gear. Furthermore, they possess a counter-current heat exchange system in their flippers and legs, which pre-warms the blood, returning to the heart. This allows them to maintain a core body temperature of 38 degrees Celsius while standing on solid ice for months. Their ability to dive to depths of over 500 meters and hold their breath for 20 minutes demonstrates a mastery over the high-pressure, freezing abyss that defies mammalian limits. The apex predators of this realm, the orcas, type B, and leopard seals, exhibit hunting strategies that suggest a high level of cognitive complexity. Antarctic orcas have been documented using wave-washing techniques where they swim in a synchronized line to create a wave that knocks seals off ice floes. This is not instinct. It is a culturally transmitted behavior passed down through generations, showcasing a form of Antarctic intelligence. The leopard seal, with its serpentine body and formidable teeth, is the guardian of the ice edge. Unlike other seals, it is a specialized predator of endotherms, penguins, and other seals. Recent studies using underwater cameras have revealed that leopard seals exhibit complex social interactions. They also produce vocalizations that vary depending on the region. This suggests that even in the silence of the ice, there is a sophisticated social architecture among these giants. The variations in their calls indicate the possible existence of regional dialects or distinct social groups. Perhaps the most resilient masters are the endoliths. These are microscopic algae, fungi, and bacteria that live inside the pores of rocks in the McMurdo dry valleys. In an environment with no liquid water and extreme UV radiation, these organisms survive by shutting down for years at a time. This state is known as metabolic dormancy. They only activate during the brief moments when the sun warms the rock enough to create a microscopic film of moisture. These organisms represent the absolute limit of life. They prove that even in a place that mimics the surface of Mars, biology finds a way to persist. The discovery of these stone dwellers has profound implications for astrobiology. It suggests that if life exists on other planets, it will likely be found hiding within the geological structures of the planet. There, it would be shielded from the harsh conditions of the exterior environment. None of these giants could exist without Antarctic krill, Eupausia superba. Despite being only a few centimeters long, the total biomass of Antarctic krill is estimated to be around 500 million tons, more than the weight of all humans on Earth combined. Krill are the engine of the continent. they have evolved to feed on algae, growing on the underside of sea ice, effectively turning sunlight into animal protein. During the dark winter months, they can shrink in size and revert to a juvenile state to save energy, a process of biological reversal that is extremely rare in the animal kingdom. The entire Antarctic ecosystem, from the blue whale to the Adelie penguin, is a pyramid built upon this tiny, resilient crustacean. The masters of the realm are now facing a new invisible enemy, the warming of the Antarctic Peninsula. As temperatures rise, the forbidden barrier of extreme cold is thinning. For the first time in millennia, invasive species like the king crab are moving into shallower Antarctic waters. These predators threaten the slow-moving giants that have evolved for millions of years without such threats. Furthermore, the expansion of the Antarctic hairgrass and Antarctic pearlwort is turning parts of the white continent green. While this may seem like a return to the Gondwanan past, it is happening too fast for the specialized masters of the ice to adapt. The truth is that the very isolation that created these biological wonders is now their greatest vulnerability. Antarctica teaches us that life is not a fragile accident, but a relentless force. The masters of the realm of giants have decoded the secrets of the cold. They use chemistry and cooperation to conquer the most hostile landmass on Earth. They remind us that the forbidden frontier is not empty. It is a kingdom governed by laws that are different from ours. It is a place where time slows down, blood runs clear, and the smallest creatures drive the largest ecological engines. Decoding the life of Antarctica is a humbling endeavor. It shows us that even in the face of absolute zero, nature finds a way to innovate. Whether it is the 2,000-year-old sponge or the alien icefish, these organisms are the true owners of the continent. We are merely temporary visitors, struggling to understand a world that they have mastered for millions of years. Understanding their survival is not just a scientific pursuit, it is the key to understanding the resilience of life itself. This resilience applies both to our planet and potentially to the frozen oceans of the stars. Antarctica serves as the planet's final frontier of untapped wealth. It is a massive, frozen vault holding a staggering concentration of natural resources. These assets are currently shielded by some of the world's most complex international laws. While the surface appears as a desolate white void, the geological reality beneath the ice tells a story of immense economic potential. As global reserves of minerals and energy dwindle, the forbidden frontier is becoming the focal point of a slow-motion gold rush. This race has a definitive expiration date, the year 2048. The hydrocarbon potential within the Antarctic bedrock is particularly provocative. Geologists estimate there are approximately 200 billion barrels of oil beneath the continental shelf and interior basins. Recent 2026 reports suggest this number could be even higher, with some estimates reaching 511 billion barrels, double the reserves of Saudi Arabia. Beyond energy, the continent is a mineralogical treasure trove. The Transantarctic Mountains contain deposits of gold, platinum, silver, and nickel. These deposits mirror the rich mineral belts found in Australia and South Africa. Recent findings even suggest the presence of kimberlite pipes, which are the primary volcanic source for diamonds. The continent also holds substantial quantities of rare earth elements like neodymium, critical for high-tech and green energy industries. Perhaps most critically, the ice sheet contains roughly 70% to 75% of the world's freshwater supply. In an era of increasing global water scarcity, this frozen reservoir represents a resource of incalculable strategic value. Access to these assets is currently prohibited by the 1991 Madrid Protocol. This protocol designates Antarctica as a nature reserve dedicated to peace and science. However, this moratorium is not permanent. In 2048, the protocol will face a formal review where a 75% majority of signatory nations could vote to lift the mining ban. This looming deadline has triggered a quiet but intense geopolitical positioning. China has expanded its footprint to 5 research bases, including the recently completed Qinling Station. The United States maintains a significant presence through facilities like McMurdo Station, often managed by defense contractors. While these operations are officially scientific, they allow nations to conduct dual-use research. This includes mapping resource locations and establishing de facto sovereignty. Simultaneously, the physical landscape is shifting as the climate warms. The Thwaites Glacier loses approximately 75 billion tons of ice annually, gradually exposing more of the coastline. Projections suggest that by the end of the century, localized warming might even permit limited agriculture. This could include the cultivation of hardy crops like barley and potatoes. Such changes would fundamentally alter the forbidden status of the continent, turning it into a viable economic battlefield. Antarctica serves as a critical natural laboratory and a biological time capsule. It preserves over 1 million years of climate history within its deep ice sheets. Scientific drilling has revealed that these compressed layers hold essential data on prehistoric atmospheric gases. They also provide a record of regional temperatures spanning millions of years. This information allows researchers to compare ancient greenhouse gas levels with our rapidly warming modern era. In early 2026, the SEWEIS-2C project recovered a record-breaking 228-meter sediment core from beneath the ice, potentially spanning 23 million years of history. The continent has transitioned from a legendary blank space on ancient maps to a vital mirror of global human impact. While it was once considered a stagnant wasteland, modern analysis reveals it as a dynamic engine driving global ocean circulation. The Southern Ocean acts as the planet's cold factory, influencing weather patterns and deep sea currents as far as the Northern Hemisphere. However, the extreme isolation that once protected this wilderness is beginning to erode. The rise in regional temperatures has triggered a gradual greening of the coastal fringes. Hardy plants and invasive species now threaten the delicate evolutionary balance maintained for eons. The melting of the Thwaites Glacier and other massive ice shelves poses a significant threat to global stability. Their complete collapse could raise global sea levels by several meters, with the West Antarctic ice sheet alone holding a 4 to 5 meter potential rise. These changes suggest that the future of the continent is inextricably linked to the survival of coastal civilizations worldwide. As we continue to probe subglacial lakes and buried mountains, the pursuit of knowledge remains a humbling endeavor. In February 2026, China set a new record by drilling 3,413 meters deep to reach the area above the Kilin subglacial lake. Antarctica reminds us of how much remains unknown about our home planet. It stands as Earth's final frontier of silence, science, and suspicion. Whether it becomes a last refuge or a harbinger of environmental collapse, the secrets within its frozen abyss offer essential clues to the limits of life and the future of our world.